My name is Olivia Bennett. I'm 27 years old. And the strangest thing about realizing someone doesn't respect you is that it doesn't always happen during a screaming fight. Sometimes it happens in your own apartment, under the cold glow of a ring light, with your boyfriend smiling at you like your heartbreak is already edited, captioned, and ready to post. I work as a network systems administrator for a mid-sized logistics company. It sounds boring when I say it out loud. Servers, firewalls, access permissions, emergency tickets from people who swear they didn't click anything weird. But I'm good at it. I make decent money. Not rich money. Responsible money. The kind of money you budget carefully because nobody is coming to rescue you if you mess up. My one real splurge over the past 3 years was my gaming PC. I built it myself. Piece by piece. I saved for it the way some people save for vacations. Every paycheck, a little more. A graphics card here, a processor there. Custom cooling, extra RAM, a case I stared at online for 3 weeks before finally ordering. By the time it was finished, the whole setup had cost me close to $5,000. But to me, it wasn't just a computer. It was what I came home to after 12-hour shifts. It was where I decompressed after ransomware scares, broken servers, and managers who thought the internet is down was a complete diagnosis. It was mine. Something I had built with patience. Something I had earned. My boyfriend, Mason Reed, never really understood that. Mason was 25. Charming in the way people are charming when they know a camera is nearby. We'd been together for 2 years, living together for 8 months in my apartment. The lease was in my name. I paid most of the rent. Mason covered part of it and helped with utilities when his money wasn't tied up in content. At first, his social media things seemed harmless. Fashion clips. Reaction videos. Little jokes. I didn't care. Everyone needs a hobby. But slowly, it stopped feeling like a hobby. It became a hunger. If a video didn't perform well, he went quiet for hours. If someone else went viral, he acted like the universe had personally insulted him. His follower count became his mood. His mood became our weather. And I kept telling myself it was just a phase. Until last Saturday. I came home after a brutal shift. A ransomware incident had hit one of our client systems, and I'd spent 12 hours staring at logs until my eyes felt like they had sand in them. All I wanted was a shower, leftover pizza, and maybe 1 quiet hour of gaming before I passed out. I unlocked the door. The apartment was too bright. That was the first thing I noticed. The living room lights were on. The ring light was on. Mason's phone was propped on a tripod, aimed directly at my desk. And Mason was standing beside it, grinning. Too wide. Too ready. "Babe," he said, clapping once. "Perfect timing." Then I saw the desk. Where my PC should have been, there was a destroyed black tower. Glass shattered. Wires hanging out. Something dark smeared across the side, like burn marks. For half a second, my body forgot how to move. My heart dropped so hard, it felt physical. Mason threw his arms out. "Surprise!" he shouted. "I destroyed your stupid computer. How does it feel to lose something you love more than me?" The phone kept recording. That tiny red light stared at me like an eye. I looked at the broken machine, then at Mason, then back at the machine. Something was wrong. Not emotionally wrong, technically wrong. The case was close to mine, but not exact. The internal layout was off. The graphics card sticking out of the mess looked ancient. I stepped closer and picked it up. It wasn't my card. Not even close. And suddenly, through the exhaustion, through the shock, I started laughing. Not because it was funny, because my brain had finally caught up. "Good one," I said quietly. "You almost got me." Mason's smile twitched. "What?" I turned the fake graphics card in my hand. "This isn't my PC." His expression changed so fast it almost scared me. "No, it is. I destroyed it." "No, Mason." I let the busted card drop back onto the desk. "My graphics card alone costs more than this whole pile of junk." His eyes flicked toward the tripod, toward the phone, toward the ruined moment he had imagined would make him famous. I walked to the hall closet and opened the door. My actual PC was sitting there, untouched. I had moved it the week before while cleaning cables under my desk. Mason hadn't noticed. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then I looked back at him. Nice try, though. Really committed to the bit. His face turned red. "You moved it? When?" "Last week." "Why didn't you tell me?" I stared at him. Why would you need to know where my PC was? The silence after that was different. Sharper. Because we both heard what he had just admitted without saying. Unless he had been looking for it. Unless the plan had never been fake. Unless he had truly meant to destroy the real one. It was a prank, he snapped. A prank where you thought you were destroying $5,000 of my property? It's just a computer. There it was. Just. The smallest word people use when they want to make your pain look ridiculous. Just a computer. Just money. Just a joke. Just content. Mason grabbed his phone off the tripod, irritated now. You don't get it. Destruction videos do crazy numbers. I looked at him then. Really looked at him. At the man I had shared a bed with. The man who kissed my forehead when we were in public. The man who apparently saw 3 years of my work and savings as a prop. I'm taking a shower, I said. We'll talk after. I stayed under the water for 40 minutes. Not crying. Not yet. Just thinking. Because pranks are supposed to be funny for everyone. This wasn't a prank. This was a test. And Mason had failed it before I even walked through the door. When I came out of the shower, Mason was sprawled across the couch with his laptop open. Editing. Of course he was editing. The destroyed fake PC footage was paused frame by frame on the screen, while he adjusted brightness and cut transitions like the entire evening had simply become another project. The smell of reheated noodles filled the apartment. Normal. That was the unsettling part. My relationship was quietly bleeding out, and he was color-correcting footage. We need to talk, I said. Without looking up, he sighed. Can it wait? I'm trying to salvage this.
Salvage.
Interesting word choice. No. He leaned back dramatically and closed the laptop halfway. What now? I crossed my arms. You intended to destroy my computer. His expression instantly shifted into annoyance, like I was the difficult one. Oh my God, Olivia, not this again. You thought that pile on the desk was real. It was a prank. A prank that would have cost me $5,000. It's just stuff. There it was again. Just stuff. I laughed once, softly. With what money exactly was I supposed to replace it? You make good money. I make responsible money. You act like you're poor. I act like someone who understands how bills work. Mason rolled his eyes and stood up. You know what your problem is? You never support anything I care about. I stared at him. You almost destroyed the thing I care about most. It's a computer. And your content is just videos. His jaw tightened. That's different. No, I said quietly. It isn't. For a second, silence filled the apartment. Then Mason started pacing. You know how hard it is growing online right now? Everybody's doing the same thing. You need moments. You need shock value. So your solution was property damage? You're so dramatic. I felt something inside me cool completely. Not anger. Worse. Clarity. You know what I think? I asked. He threw his hands up. Please enlighten me. I think if you had found the real PC, you would have smashed it without hesitating. His face flickered. Just for a second. But I saw it. And that tiny flicker hurt more than if he'd screamed. Because it was true. He would have done it. Not because he hated me. Because views mattered more. I'm leaving for the night, I said finally. What? I need space. Oh, so now you're abandoning me because of a joke? No, I replied. I'm leaving because I finally realized something. What? You don't respect me. His expression hardened immediately. You're unbelievable. I grabbed an overnight bag from the bedroom while he muttered loudly enough for me to hear. God, you're so sensitive. You care more about that stupid setup than your own boyfriend. You never support my dreams. The scary thing? Part of me still wanted to comfort him. That's what happens when you love someone too long. Your instincts don't disappear immediately, even after they hurt you. I zipped the bag shut and walked out before I changed my mind. But I didn't go to a friend's place. I drove to a 24-hour diner off the highway and sat in a cracked vinyl booth, drinking terrible coffee, while neon lights buzzed overhead. Around midnight, the exhaustion finally settled into my bones. And that's when another realization hit me. Mason thought my PC was disposable. But he never treated his own things that way. His designer sneakers? Untouchable. His watches? Displayed like museum pieces. His limited edition jackets? Protected in garment bags. His closet looked like a luxury resale page. And suddenly, memory after memory started lining up in my head. Can I use your card? I'll pay you back. Babe, this jacket is an investment. These sneakers will appreciate in value. At some point, my emergency credit card had quietly become Mason's lifestyle fund. I pulled out my phone and started calculating. Shoes, designer jackets, 2 watches, accessories. Total estimated value? Around $6,000. Almost the exact value of the PC he'd been willing to destroy. I stared out the diner window at the empty parking lot. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I called my friend Vanessa. Vanessa owned a consignment boutique downtown that specialized in authenticated luxury streetwear and accessories. She answered on the 3rd ring, groggy. Olivia? Do you know what time it is? I need a favor. That woke her up immediately. What happened? I explained everything. Not emotionally. Just facts. By the end, Vanessa was fully awake. He seriously tried to destroy your PC for TikTok? Yep. Wow. Hypothetically, I said carefully, if someone had expensive designer items purchased with their card, could they legally consign them? There was a pause. Then Vanessa sighed. You're about to do something messy, aren't you? Probably. Another pause. Do you have receipts? Yes. Authentication cards? Yes. Then, hypothetically, yes. I closed my eyes. Because the worst part? The plan made sense immediately. Too immediately. And somewhere deep down, I knew crossing this line would end the relationship forever. But maybe Mason had already ended it the second he lifted that hammer over the fake PC. Sunday morning, I returned to the apartment while Mason was at his part-time retail job. The place was quiet. Peaceful. Like nothing had happened. His ring light still stood near the desk. I looked at it for a long moment before unplugging it. Then I walked into the bedroom. Mason's closet looked like a showroom. Designer sneakers lined neatly beneath hanging jackets arranged by color. Everything carefully maintained. Protected. Valued. Funny how people always understand respect when it belongs to them. I packed every luxury item carefully into storage bins. 2 designer watches. 7 pairs of limited edition sneakers. 3 jackets. Accessories. I photographed everything. Serial numbers. Receipts. Authentication cards. I documented it all with the cold precision of someone emotionally detaching in real time. Around noon, I loaded the bins into my car and drove to Vanessa's shop. She took one look at my face and immediately stopped joking. You're serious? I am. Vanessa authenticated everything. By evening, several pieces were already listed online. Apparently, rich men on the internet move quickly when expensive sneakers appear below market value. By Monday afternoon, multiple items had sold. By Wednesday, almost all of them were gone. Total sales? $5,800. I transferred most of it into savings. Not because I needed replacement money anymore, because emotionally, I already felt like something valuable had been destroyed. Wednesday night, Mason came home humming. Actually humming. He tossed his keys onto the counter and disappeared into the bedroom. 3 seconds later, the apartment exploded. Olivia! I stayed seated on the couch. He stormed into the living room, pale with panic. Where's my stuff? I muted the TV slowly. What stuff? My sneakers, my jackets, my watches, where are they? Sold them. For a second, he genuinely looked like he couldn't process the sentence. You what? I sold them. His face twisted. You can't do that. Interesting, I said softly. That's exactly what I thought about my PC. That's completely different. Why? Because those were mine. And my computer was mine. You psycho. I stood up slowly. No, Mason. A psycho is someone who tries to destroy their partner's property for internet attention. It was a joke. And this is a consequence. His breathing became uneven. I could literally see the panic spreading across his face as reality settled in. My watches alone were worth. I know exactly what they were worth. You had no right. I had receipts. That doesn't matter. It mattered enough to the consignment shop. Mason grabbed his phone immediately. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. And he did. He actually did. I stood there listening while he tried explaining the situation to emergency dispatch. Halfway through the call, his expression shifted from outrage to confusion. Then embarrassment. Then fury. Because the dispatcher transferred him to non-emergency almost immediately. And after another 15 minutes, the responding officer basically told him the same thing. Civil dispute. Take it to court if you want. When he hung up, His hands were shaking. "You ruined my life." The irony almost made me laugh. "No," I said quietly. "I think we ruined each other's." Mason called his mother before midnight. By 1 a.m, she and his older sister, Brianna, were pounding on my apartment door hard enough to wake half the building. I opened it anyway. Not because I wanted to, because part of me was curious how quickly people could rewrite a story when someone they loved was the villain. Mason's mother pushed inside first without waiting for permission. "Where is it?" she snapped immediately. "Where is what?" "My son's property." Behind her, Brianna folded her arms dramatically, while Mason hovered near the hallway, looking wounded and furious at the same time. Interesting combination. "You mean the designer collection?" I asked, calmly. "Yes, that." "Sold." His mother gasped, like I'd confessed to murder. "You evil little—" "Careful," I interrupted quietly. "You're still in my apartment." That stopped her for exactly 2 seconds. "You stole from my son!" "No," I replied. "I sold items purchased using my credit card after your son attempted to destroy $5,000 of my property for social media content. It was a prank!" I looked directly at Mason. "You keep using that word like it magically fixes intent." Brianna stepped forward aggressively. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said, "but I do think it's revealing." Mason finally spoke. "You had no right." "And you did?" His face tightened. That computer obsession was unhealthy anyway. I actually smiled at that, not because it was funny, because suddenly everything made sense. The dismissiveness, the constant eye-rolling whenever I talked about gaming, the way he mocked my hobbies but expected worship for his own interests. "You know what's amazing?" I asked softly. "You were willing to destroy something that mattered deeply to me, while protecting your own possessions like sacred objects." "That's not the same." "Why? Because your things are fashionable?" Brianna suddenly pulled out her phone. "Oh, I'm recording this." Of course she was. The entire family treated conflict like performance art. "Go ahead," I said. "Make sure you include the part where your brother tried to smash my gaming setup for TikTok." Her expression flickered, because that part didn't sound good online. Mason's mother pointed at me with trembling rage. "You're abusive." "No," I replied calmly. "I'm done being disrespected." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Mason laughed bitterly. "You seriously chose a computer over me." And there it was. The sentence that finally killed whatever was left between us. "No," I said quietly. "I chose myself over someone who treated me like content." They left eventually. Not gracefully. Brianna kept threatening court. Mason's mother promised I'd regret humiliating him. Mason himself said almost nothing during the end. That scared me more than yelling would have, because silence meant he was thinking, calculating, rewriting the story in his head until he became the victim. After they were gone, I locked the door and leaned against it for a long time. The apartment suddenly felt unfamiliar, like a place where something important had died. I looked toward the hallway closet. My PC still sat inside, untouched, safe. But somehow it didn't feel victorious anymore. Just sad. The next morning, I changed the locks. Legally, I could. The lease was entirely under my name. Then I texted Mason, "You can arrange a time to collect the rest of your belongings." His response came instantly. "You're insane," followed by, "Everyone is going to know what kind of person you are." Then, "You destroyed my future." That one almost impressed me. Designer sneakers were now apparently a future. I didn't respond. But over the next few days, mutual friends started reaching out. At first carefully, then more directly. What actually happened? Turns out, Mason had been telling people I randomly snapped, stole his belongings, and threw him out with no warning. Funny how he kept forgetting the attempted property destruction part. I stayed factual, every single time. No dramatic speeches, no emotional manipulation. Just truth. Mason tried to destroy my PC for content. I sold items bought using my card. The relationship ended. That was it. Some people still sided with him anyway. Honestly, good. It taught me exactly who confused charisma with character, but not everyone bought his version. A few days later, I got a message from Brianna's boyfriend, Tyler. We barely knew each other, so seeing his name pop up surprised me. "Hey, heard what really happened. Just wanted to say I'm not involved in whatever they're trying to do." I stared at the message, then typed back, "What are they trying to do?" His response came almost immediately. "Talking about suing you. Brianna wants revenge more than Mason does at this point. I rubbed my forehead. Of course she did. Tyler sent another message seconds later. For what it's worth, trying to destroy your partner's stuff for internet views is insane. I actually laughed quietly at that, not because it was funny, because hearing someone else say it out loud made me realize how normalized the madness had started to feel while I was living inside it. 3 days later, I got served with a demand letter. Not a lawsuit, just a threat wrapped in legal language. Mason was demanding the value of the sold items, plus emotional damages. Emotional damages. The irony nearly knocked me unconscious. I called my cousin Rachel, who worked as a paralegal. After reading the letter, she snorted. This is weak. Weak how? You have receipts. Your card purchased the items. They were stored in your residence. Plus, if he admits he intended to destroy your property first, no decent attorney is going to love this case. So I shouldn't panic? You should absolutely not panic. I exhaled slowly. Thanks. Rachel paused. Olivia? Yeah? You know this relationship is completely over, right? I looked around the apartment, at the empty corner where Mason's ring light used to stand, at the silence, at the peace that still somehow hurt. Yeah, I whispered. I know. Saturday became the official belongings exchange. Mason arrived with an entourage. His mother, Brianna, 2 guys I'd never seen before who clearly existed to look intimidating. Meanwhile, I had Vanessa sitting calmly at my kitchen counter sipping iced coffee like she was attending live theater. I had packed all of Mason's remaining belongings neatly into boxes. Clothes, toiletries, random electronics, everything. When Mason entered the apartment, his eyes immediately scanned the bedroom hallway, probably hoping I'd magically changed my mind. I hadn't. His mother looked around sharply. Where are the watches? Sold. The jackets? Sold. The sneakers? Also sold. Brianna stepped forward immediately. You are going to regret this. Then sue me. That caught her off guard, because people threatening lawsuits rarely expect someone to welcome one. Mason finally spoke quietly. You really hate me now, huh? The question hit harder than I expected, because once upon a time, I had loved him enough to picture marriage, children maybe, a whole future. And now we were arguing over consignment receipts. I don't hate you, I said honestly. I just finally see you clearly. His eyes shifted away first. That mattered more than I wanted it to. Then Brianna started again. You invaded his privacy too! I frowned. What? Mason said you went through his messages. Ah, that. Because there was one detail Mason still didn't know. While packing his tablet into one of the boxes earlier that week, I'd seen a conversation open on screen. A conversation with one of his friends. I really wanted to smash that stupid setup. The message had burned itself into my memory instantly, not because it was cruel, because it was honest. You left your tablet open, I said calmly. I saw one message. Mason's face drained of color. What message? The one where you admitted you actually wanted to destroy my PC? Silence. Heavy. Ugly. Vanessa slowly lowered her coffee cup. Even Brianna looked stunned. Because suddenly, the situation became much harder to twist. Mason looked at me with something close to desperation. You weren't supposed to see that. And somehow, that hurt more than the message itself. After that, the apartment went completely silent. Not the peaceful kind. The kind where everyone suddenly realizes the truth has entered the room, and there's no elegant way to push it back out. Mason stood frozen beside the boxes. Brianna looked between us, trying to rebuild the narrative in real time. His mother opened her mouth twice before finally snapping. People say things when they're angry. I nodded slowly. They do. Then I looked directly at Mason. And sometimes those things are honest. He swallowed hard. For the first time since this entire disaster started, he looked less angry than scared. Not scared of losing the lawsuit. Not scared of losing the clothes or watches. Scared because someone had finally seen him clearly. And worse, I wasn't backing down anymore. Vanessa stood and brushed invisible dust off her jeans. Well, she said lightly, this has officially become uncomfortable enough for me to need another coffee. Nobody laughed. Mason stared at me. You really think I'm some terrible person now? I crossed my arms. I think you cared more about going viral than whether you hurt me. That's not true. Then why were you disappointed when the prank failed? He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. The silence answered for him. Eventually, his mother started ushering everyone toward the door again, muttering about lawyers and consequences, and how I'd destroyed a good man over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That was one way to describe attempted property destruction filmed under professional lighting. Mason lingered at the doorway after everyone else stepped into the hall. For one strange second, it almost felt like the old us again. Like maybe he'd say something real, something human. Instead, he asked quietly, "So that's it?" I looked at him for a long moment. The messy brown hair, the expensive hoodie, the familiar face I had once trusted enough to fall asleep beside every night. And suddenly I realized something horrifying. I had spent 2 years loving a version of him that mostly existed in my imagination. "I think it ended before tonight," I said softly. Then I closed the door. The lawsuit never came. Another week passed, then another. Apparently, every lawyer Mason's family consulted told them roughly the same thing. The case was messy. The purchases were linked to my card, the receipts existed, and Mason's own messages about wanting to destroy my property made him look terrible. Threatening legal action turned out to be much easier than actually pursuing it. Funny how that works. Meanwhile, the social fallout spread quietly. Mutual friends started piecing together the truth. Some apologized for believing Mason immediately. Some vanished entirely. Again, good. People reveal themselves during conflict almost as quickly as lovers do. Brianna tried posting vague quotes online about toxic women who weaponize money against men. That backfired spectacularly. Apparently, someone in the comments knew enough of the story to ask, "Is this about the guy who tried to smash his girlfriend's gaming PC for TikTok?" The post disappeared within an hour. The apartment slowly started feeling like mine again. I moved the PC back onto the desk, reorganized cables, vacuumed, opened windows. It's strange what heartbreak looks like sometimes. Not dramatic crying on the kitchen floor, just quietly reclaiming space, inch by inch. Still, some nights hurt more than I expected. Because anger is easy. Grief is harder. I missed who I thought Mason was. I missed movie nights, inside jokes, the version of him that rubbed my shoulders after stressful shifts. But memory becomes dangerous after breakups. It edits, softens, cuts out the parts where someone kept choosing themselves over you again and again. Whenever that happened, I forced myself to remember the ring light, the tripod, the excitement in his eyes before he thought my PC was destroyed. That usually cured the nostalgia pretty quickly. 3 weeks after the closet incident, Mason came back. Unannounced. I opened the door cautiously and almost didn't recognize him at first. He looked exhausted. No styled hair, no designer outfit, no carefully curated image. Just Mason. His eyes were red like he hadn't slept properly in days. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. Every instinct told me this was a bad idea. But another, quieter part of me needed closure. So I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, staring around the apartment like it belonged to another life. His gaze landed on the gaming setup. Back where it belonged. Untouched. "I'm sorry," he said finally. I stayed standing. "For what?" "For everything." "That's vague." He exhaled shakily. "The prank was stupid." "Yes." "I went too far." "Yes." "I miss you." That one landed harder than the others, because unlike the apology, I believed that part. He did miss me. But missing someone and respecting them are not the same thing. Mason rubbed his face tiredly. "I know you think I'm shallow. I don't think that." His eyes lifted hopefully. "I know that." The hope disappeared immediately. "I got caught up in everything online," he admitted. "The pressure, the competition, seeing other creators blow up, it messes with your head." I nodded slowly. "I believe that." "Then why can't we fix this?" I looked at him quietly for a moment. Then I asked, "When's my birthday?" He blinked. "What?" "My birthday." "That's not fair." "It's a simple question." He hesitated too long. "August?" I almost smiled. "September." His shoulders dropped. "Mason," I said gently, "we dated for 2 years." "I'm bad with dates." "What's my job title?" "You work in IT." "I'm a network systems administrator." "Okay, but what game was I playing when we first met?" He opened his mouth, closed it, didn't know. And suddenly he looked devastated, Because he finally understood what I was actually asking. Not trivia. Attention. Care. Interest. Love. You never really saw me, I whispered. That's not true. You saw what I could provide: stability, an apartment, support, someone who made your life easier. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tears gathered in his eyes, and for a second, mine almost did too. Because this would have been easier if he were cruel all the time. But most selfish people aren't monsters every minute of the day. They're just selfish consistently enough to slowly drain the people who love them. The PC wasn't really the problem, I said softly. The bags weren't either. Then what was? You treated the things I loved like they were disposable. But your own passions, your image, your brand, those mattered. He looked down. I can change. Maybe. I meant that. People can change sometimes, but not always quickly enough to save the relationship they broke while learning how. But not with me, I finished. The room became painfully quiet. Then Mason nodded once. Small, defeated, like someone finally understanding the ending of a story they thought they could rewrite. He walked toward the door slowly. Before leaving, he looked back one last time. I did love you, he said quietly. I believed that too. That was the saddest part. I know, I replied. But you loved attention more. And this time, he didn't argue. I haven't seen him since. The apartment is peaceful now. Sometimes lonely, but peaceful. My PC still glows softly beside my desk every night. The savings account still has the consignment money sitting untouched inside it. Occasionally, I wonder if I should feel guiltier about what I did. Maybe I should. It was messy, petty, legally gray at best. But then I remember Mason lifting a hammer toward what he believed was 3 years of my work and joy. All for strangers on the internet. And somehow, the guilt fades again. Because relationships die long before breakups sometimes. Ours died the moment Mason decided my heartbreak would make good content.